Hi, I'm Jo Cottrell, dog behaviourist from Dog Trouble Behaviour Training and Wellness Centre. Greetings, nice to join you again. Today I am welcomed by Joe Flanagan from Ingenious Probiotics.
Hi Joe, how are you?
Good, thanks for coming down to meet with us and talk about your products.
Delighted.
So we're going to chat today about Ingenious Probiotics and really how health and behaviour can influence each other and the correlation between the two. So first of all, Joe, if you can just explain to everybody, what is Ingenious Probiotics?
Okay, so Ingenious Probiotics, we bring in the Provolone brand of probiotics into the UK and other English-speaking countries. So I guess the real question is, what are probiotics and where do they fit?
Yeah.
How do they work? So Provolone is the brand, and Provolone is three words in French, and I think this has a bearing. Pro-vi-lon, for life balance.
Okay.
So when you think about it in terms of balances, you've got good bacteria, you've got bad bacteria.
Yeah.
We're all very worried about the bad bacteria, but actually the bad bacteria make up a very, very tiny proportion of the whole micro world. So the microbiome on us and in us, we'll have some bad bacteria. It's fine. If you've got a little bit of staph on your dog's skin or a little bit of E. coli in your dog's gut, absolutely fine. As long as it's way outgunned and outbalanced by the good bacteria.
Okay.
So probiotics is a World Health Organization term, just an umbrella name to describe microorganisms that bring a benefit.
Okay.
So it's probiotics.
Okay. First of all, didn't really know what probiotics was when I first started working with dogs with behaviour issues. And it's really come about in the last couple of years that I've started to realise the effect of dogs' health on dogs' behaviour. And certainly a lot of the dogs that I work with, the most common issues they get are ear infections, skin allergies, skin conditions, teeth problems. And so what I've had to start to do is look at, how is this dog behaving a certain way? What's the cause of the behaviour? What's driving the behaviour? And certainly a lot of dogs, it's because they're in discomfort or sometimes pain as well.
Yeah.
And that can then bring about behaviours like anxiety, reactivity, aggression.
Yeah.
But a lot of dog owners don't put the two and two together.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested in your products because there's certainly a lot of dogs out there that need the support of these products.
Sure.
So how can the ear care product help with dogs that are suffering with chronic ear infections?
That's a really great one to start with because it's
a common one.
It's the most common one, and it's a really good way of explaining the mechanics of probiotics and how they work, because you've named the top three conversations that we have as well.
Right.
Dental health, skin issues, and ear infections. Particularly with ear infections, not one-off ear infections, but repeat ear infections. And that's the key. And we see people saying things like, oh, every time my dog has a flare-up, every time my dog has a condition with their ears, we do this. And immediately I'm thinking, what do you mean every time?
Yeah.
Why is there every time? Where is that coming from? Why isn't this being just fixed? So my vet put it very well. And he said that, look, they were having experiences where the dog would come in, present with an ear infection, they'd administer antibiotics. Fine. 2 weeks later, antibiotic course is finished, the infection is gone, hunky-dory. 2 weeks after that, same dog, presenting with an ear infection in the same ear. So head scratch, take a swab, send it off to the lab, it comes back, it's a different bug this time.
Right.
So, okay, repeat infection, antibiotics, and the same thing then a month, 2 months later, dog's coming back in with yet a different infection.
Okay.
Now, it was telling me about one dog in particular where this went on for 7 years.
Wow.
Okay, now, these days, the way the vet bills have gone...
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money to spend on one dog.
And I don't know about you, but I don't behave very well, never mind my dog or cat, if I've got an ear infection.
It's painful. It's really painful, yeah.
So let's not have it happening. So this is a great way of explaining probiotics and how they work, because what was happening with the antibacterial, antiseptic, antibiotic approach was that they were getting rid of the bad bacteria. Yes, it was doing what it said on the tin, killing the germ. Now, what's a germ? That's a whole other conversation, right?
Sure.
So they're getting rid of the bad bacteria, but baby in bath water, they're getting rid of everything else as well. So all the good microbiome in the ear is getting wiped out. So now you've got an ear with no microbiome.
So the dog's lost its natural ability to fight the infection.
Yeah, the
because
natural
you've got
defense.
rid of the good stuff.
So when that dog walks into the vet, you're looking at 20, 30 trillion microorganisms in, on, and around that dog. So a good vet will take that into consideration. So when you wipe out some of that microbiome, you know you've got a very short space of time before Mother Nature repopulates that surface. In something like a kitchen table, you're talking about 20 minutes. So you can kill all the bacteria with whatever nasty you want to do, and that's a whole lot. Do that later in the conversation.
Yeah.
But you've got a very short period of time before the microbiome is replaced by something else, and you're not in control of what that something else is. The ear is a great place for things to grow. It's warm, it's protected, does food. The ear is producing food for bacteria. Brilliant place for bacteria to grow. So what we do with probiotics, instead of wiping out the microbiome, we bolster it. So I said that it's fine to have a little bit of bad bacteria as long as it's way out balanced by the good.
Yes.
So we just put lots of good in there. So the good bacteria then in large numbers is doing two jobs. The first job is it's going to be eating organic waste. Now, in the ear, that's going to be what the ear's producing and so on, and dead skin cells. On the skin, that could be dust mite poop, bits of pollen, dried saliva, whatever, organic waste. So that's now getting cleaned up by the probiotics.
So it acts like a Pac-Man. Years ago, you used to have Pac-Man that used to go along and just... tick, tick, tick.
We have Pac-Man on our presentation. It's a little Pac-Man. But it's only people over a certain age who actually get the reference, so thank you for that. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, Pac-Man, just eating the organic waste, cleaning up.
Okay.
And this is after. So after you shampoo the dog with the probiotics, for example, for another 3 days, it's in there eating those molecules of fox poo or whatever. Chomp, chomp.
Yeah.
But by doing that... that's how it keeps away the bad bacteria. So the bad bacteria then can't get a look in. It's got no food. It's got no space. It just can't thrive. So sometimes you put it in football terms. If you can imagine, one team's got 11 of the best players in the world and the other team's got 1,000 players. Doesn't matter. It ain't happening for the 11 best players, right?
Yeah.
No matter how strong they are. It doesn't matter if it's a resistant bacteria or whatever. We work against Pseudomonas or MRSA the same as we work against E. coli. It's just a mechanical process. Nice and simple. So those probiotics have a lifespan of about 3 days.
Okay.
So after the third day, they're kind of fading away, and then the body's able to just do its own microbiome thing. But the main thing is we're not leaving it exposed to the possibility of that repeat ear infection.
Right.
And with ears, you're talking about situations now where we've had reports back from dog owners through third parties even, where they said, I've heard about this, and this spaniel was due to have its inner ear removed, and they went to this other vet and got a second opinion and used your product. And I remember saying it to the vet who was telling me that story, and I said, oh, okay, so do we supply this product directly to the client every month, or are you going to do that? And he went, no, you don't understand. It's over. And one part of my brain is going, I wanted to sell more stuff, And the big part of my brain is going, that's just phenomenal. That is just amazing. 7 years of repeat ear infection, it's over.
Wow.
So all we did was stop wiping out the microbiome and put a microbiome in there. And look, we saw your two pups as we come in, right?
Yes.
Two pups, same litter, same everything, living in the same house. They will have slightly different microbiomes.
Yeah.
And they'll both be healthy.
And George, actually, the one that came and greeted you, he had yeast in his ears. Okay. And he's only 13 weeks old.
Wow.
And so I had to start cleaning them every day. And then I started spraying the ear care into his ears. And it's great now.
And it's amazing.
But at that age, how can they get yeast at 13 weeks?
And with somebody who knows so much about dog health.
Yeah.
So where does that leave the average pet owner?
It's just that individual dog, due to its genetics or its exposure to, whatever. Yeah. It just so happens that dog is suffering, you know, with yeast in its ears.
And the yeast is there. It's naturally, it's part of the microbiome. So viruses, tiny little mites, obviously tons and tons of bacteria. It's all natural. But when you get a disturbance...
So an imbalance.
And then something comes through, and sometimes it's the yeast that can come through.
Yes.
So it's an imbalance in the microbiome. You're going to look at what's happening in the gut, what's happening with nutrition, what they're feeding the dog, and so on. we would look at what's outside, what people are spraying in the house, what they're cleaning floors with and so on. Anything that's wiping out that microbiome, even temporarily,
Sure.
is then causing a kind of, you got a bit of a dysbiosis, you got something funny going on. It can be yeast, it can be a dermatitis. And then with dermatitis, you can almost think in terms of like roughly like leaky gut
Yes.
for the skin.
Yeah.
Something's getting in there that A shouldn't be there and B shouldn't be getting in where it's going.
So what we're really saying is it's not about eradicating the bad bacteria. It's about lowering it and have more healthy bacteria so that the dog's immune system can do what it should do.
Exactly. And
Okay.
that's really important, because a dog with a little bit of E. coli to deal with, his immune system or her immune system is going to be...
It's going to be low. Yeah.
Well, if it's got a little bit to deal with, you could say, well, it's kind of like pricking the immune response.
Right.
And it's like keeping soldiers on exercise.
Okay.
So when something really happens, the immune system is there ready to fight.
Right.
So a little bit of bad bacteria is...
So it's reminding it.
Yeah, and just keeping it awake so that when it's really needed, it's ready for action stations.
Sure.
So yeah, a little bit of bad bacteria. But look, every single life form on the planet comes from bacteria. The air we breathe is only here because of bacteria.
Sure.
We're only here because of bacteria. We are dependent upon bacteria, and if all my bacteria was gone, I wouldn't make the drive home.
Yeah.
And yet
we're paranoid about it, aren't we? We're paranoid about bad bacteria being around.
Kill bacteria. Bacteria is really, really necessary.
Yes.
And we're going to die without it. So could you please stop? And look, I think in the future there's products out there that are antibacterial, and I think in the future you'll see that antibacterial thing dropping off the label.
Yeah.
As people realise, whoa, what we've been doing. And we'll talk about other issues that has caused.
Sure.
So, and this is just when we're talking about ears.
So with the ear product we've got here, for example, so if I've got Milo, one of my spaniels, who has been exactly like your case that you described. He's had recurring ear infections for probably about 2 years. Mm-hmm. And yes, a bit of yeast, but yes, also a little bit of bacteria. And we had to go down the route of he had eardrops. We tried the product Suralan. That didn't work. We tried another product, another eardrop. And then we got to a point where, because I didn't know about this, we had to give him a steroid liquid in his ear, which lasted a week. And then I took him back to the vets. And then he had another steroid drop for another week. And then a week after that, I would have to take him back. And then his ears would be fine, like you described. And then for a few weeks, they would be fine. But certainly at this time of year, it's the worst time of year for ears, according to my vet, because it's hot. Dogs are getting wet and going in water a lot, and that is just a beautiful home for bacteria to thrive. Mm-hmm. So ear infections are massively a problem at this time of year. Yeah. So what I've started doing with him, because it's only been maybe 3 weeks since we finished that course of steroids, and what I've started doing with him is giving him your ear care product. But maybe you want to just talk owners through how would you apply it, how long for, how many times a day.
Okay, and you know, the lead into that, because that's a really interesting story, and if you're a dog owner and the vet is saying you need a steroid and so on, it's difficult for someone like us to cut across and go, no, you don't need it. Yeah. If the dog's in pain,
absolutely,
you've got to look after the dog.
And he was.
Yeah, so that's number one. And the steroids probably getting the swelling down in there. And
it's important you address that first.
Yeah.
This is not a fix a dog with massive inflammation, massive pain, possible ear, the ear being affected long term. So this is not for treating an acute flare-up. Exactly. You've got to get on top of that first.
I think pain management, number one.
Yes.
And then the infection. If the vet has said, look, here's antibiotics. Now, if they're oral, we would always say finish the course.
Yes.
Because there's other things going on with antimicrobial resistance if you only half finish a course of antibiotics. And that's the same for people or horses or whatever. So do that. But going back to what we said earlier, the thing you want to avoid is the repeat infection. So if the vet has given you something that's antibacterial and said you must use this, then we're not going to cut across that advice, because we don't know
We're not vets.
We're not vets. Yeah. We don't know all the circumstance.
Yep.
The vet has looked into the ear. So we would say, okay, do that. But the second you finish with that, get it in. The worst thing that's going to happen is that if there's still antibacterial product from the vet in the ear, it will kill off the probiotics. So the worst case scenario is you might be wasting some of your probiotic spray.
Right.
But
Right.
it's a bit like a relay race when you see the runners handing the baton from one runner to the other, and there's a
Yes.
bit where they're running together.
Yeah.
Now, I don't mind if for a few days if you're killing the probiotics, as long as we're not leaving a gap, and then the probiotics take over.
Okay.
And then we're hopefully smoothing that out, and then
Sure.
stopping it coming back. There are some complications when people have had a lot of history with their dog in this case, because then there can be other things going on in there, and if there's antibacterial products that are capable of producing resistant bacteria, resistant bad bacteria,
Right.
then you could have that going on.
Yeah.
You could have a resistant kind of Pseudomonas or something going on. So we'd say is if there's been a long history, keep a real eye on it, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you start using the Luca ear care, I'd go twice a day. Mm-hmm. But if you think you're worried and you want to go 4 times a day, that's fine. Worst case scenario.
It's not a drug.
It's not a drug.
Yeah.
It's not a chemical.
It's a probiotic.
It's a probiotic. The worst case scenario is that, you put some in, and then if you put more in, well, you're not getting any better,
Yes.
any more effect, and you're wasting 0.0 of a penny or whatever it happens
Right.
to be for that spray. That's the worst. So you can go higher rather than lower if you're worried. It's a small amount, so you're not going to have stuff sloshing around inside that inner ear and making them uncomfortable.
So you're literally just lifting the ear flap and spraying.
A couple of sprays in there, but also you mentioned about cleaning, so you can spray it onto a cotton ball.
Okay.
And then you just use it to clean those ear folds and so on in as far as you can.
Nice.
And then of course you're putting probiotics in there, and they're going to keep going for a while afterwards.
Yes.
So twice to 4 times a day to begin it. Usually twice is fine.
Yeah.
A maintenance level is where you want to get down to. It might be twice a week.
Okay.
So step by step, the dog owner's going to know their dog.
Yes.
And we'd say err on the side of caution, but you're going to know when you can step down. You're going to feel confident and get down to twice a week, and you should be then fine from there on in.
Well, I know with Milo, when his ears are starting to get bad, I mean, obviously I know if I lift the ear and look in it, but I know because he starts to get much more manic, fidgety, a bit grumpy, and I know that his ears are starting to flare up again.
Yeah.
So you can always tell by your dog's behaviour if you know your dog.
Well, it's the same. Look, I get grumpy if I've you can imagine me with a toothache. Is never mind when I haven't got enough coffee in me in the morning. But
We can't go into men and pain. It's far too a deep conversation.
well, just leave us in our bubble, pretending that we can have that.
Yeah, super.
Ears. One of the biggest questions we get asked, and skin and dental. And before we leave ears, I want to talk about dental as well, because there are connections with ear infections. So do keep an eye on the dental health as well.
Right.
Because if that is coming back, just make sure those teeth are okay, and look for that sign of periodontal disease, that redness of the gums, or maybe just a line where the gums and the teeth meet.
Yeah.
And you see that red line's gingivitis, so that's a real indication. Yes, plaque and tartar are at the early stages of that, and they look bad.
Yeah.
But really, you want to keep an eye out for that red line. And
Well, let's talk about dental, because we're leading into it if you want to.
we are
because,
sliding that way.
Yeah. I mean, some of my dogs have had their teeth cleaned at the vets, usually every 3 to 4 years, but certainly if they've had really bad plaque on their teeth.
Yeah.
And so how would we use the dental care? Is it like putting it on a brush and cleaning your dog's teeth, or is it literally just spraying it on?
I would spray it on.
Right.
And again, start with twice a day until you feel you're okay to drop down, and then your maintenance is twice a week. A couple of sprays on either side, you're fine. If they brush the teeth, then continue to do that.
Okay.
But you can think of the Luca dental care as the toothpaste.
Right.
So we had a question come in last night. Can I use the Luca dental care on day 1, and on day 2 brush with the toothpaste?
Right.
And I went back and said, well, you shouldn't need the toothpaste.
Yes.
But if the toothpaste is antibacterial, see where we're going with this.
Yes.
And you're wiping out the microbiome of the mouth.
Yeah.
And then they're swallowing that, and you're paying a lot of money to feed your dog properly and looking after its microbiome, where the immune system is and so on. So we think about, but if you think of the dental care more like flossing for dogs.
Okay.
So it's getting into that socket, where the teeth and the gums meet. It's getting in there, and it's eating that organic waste.
Right.
Now, the application of the dental, I think, is slightly different than ear and skin, because with the dental, it's more of a prophylactic. It's more of a not let the bad things happen.
Yeah.
Keep
so
ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Just like flossing for humans. And just like flossing for humans, you don't necessarily do it for your teeth. You do it for your heart.
Yeah.
And you do it for your organs.
Yeah.
Because that little bit of gingivitis or whatever, the little bit of infection links to the blood system traveling throughout the rest of the body. So when people are looking for kidney issues with the cat, maybe the first thing that they'll do is check the dental health.
Yes.
Is there any sign of... For dogs, it's more heart, brain, stomach, and
Right.
so you're protecting the overall health by protecting the dental health. So it's great to keep the plaque and tartar away because they are signs of the wrong kind of bacteria. But the dog's mouth is going to be full of bacteria.
Okay.
And people worry sometimes about, even when we get calls about what they're feeding. So somebody might say, I'm worried about raw feeding.
Yeah.
And I say, well, did your dog ever eat anything funny off the pavement? Well, yeah, of course. Well, they don't worry about the raw feeding then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Can my children get E. coli or salmonella from my dog eating raw food?
Yeah.
If they get licked on the face? Yeah.
Yeah.
And look at how much bacteria are in a dog's mouth.
It's crazy. It's
yeah.
great. Now, we get those questions sometimes, and sometimes, people might be on chemotherapy or they're pregnant or whatever.
Sure.
And we say, look, you're absolutely fine. But if you're worried, and this is helpful for your dog anyway, have the probiotic in the mouth, help with that, but also using the probiotic cleaning around, because again, it's eating those little molecules of organic waste, which could be bits of food or whatever. So just keeping that bad stuff away.
Amazing.
But don't worry, even if you're on, you're immune suppressed or whatever, you're going to be fine with the raw feeding, of course,
Super.
Yeah. So dental, big one.
Massive. Okay, let's move on to allergies, and again, another common behaviour symptom that we get is dogs that have become really grumpy, really reactive, sometimes shut down because they're really suffering with itchy skin, hot spots, yeasty pores in between their toes, bald areas. And certainly, again, this time of year is the worst because it's hot, you've got dampness on the grass. A lot of dogs have got grass allergies. So when they come in from a walk, they're licking their paws, they're itchy. So talk to us about your
on the skin.
Skincare,
And isn't it absolutely nuts? You think, well, how did wolves develop? They didn't have grass pollen allergies. Where has this come from? And I think you got to zoom out and look at the dog as a canary in a coal mine, and you think, what is he being or she being subjected to? What's happening to her immune system? Why are these hot spots coming out? What's happening internally? And it's difficult to talk about allergies or intolerances without zooming out and talking about what's in the dog's life.
Yes. Yeah.
In the home.
Yeah.
We'll talk about
There's
chemicals
lots of
in a minute.
factors. Yeah.
There's lots of factors. So some cases people will have a grass pollen allergy, sure, but maybe it's the straw that's breaking the camel's back. Straw not being a pun. So, there's all these other bricks in the wall, and this is the top brick then that makes the wall too tall. But you've got all these other bricks. So let's help the dog out with allergies by looking at what you're cleaning your floor with, looking at what they're being subjected to. Now, you're going to hear, I think, a lot more about this, because I know there's a couple of pets that have recently had, got to use the words carefully here, but environmental poisons, organic phosphates.
Okay.
So you'll hear Anna Webb talking about her cat Gremlin, how he passed away because the vet didn't recognise that it was poisoning from the local environment. There's another dog, Zebby, locally here in Berkshire Council, and what they've sprayed in the woodlands where the dog's walking.
Wow.
You're going to hear a lot about that. Wow. So when we talk about chemicals, please don't switch off and think, oh no, my dog's fine, right? Because your dog and all of us are subjected to more chemicals than the scientists can actually test.
Constant.
And interacting chemicals thereof. And I've heard scientists say, we just can never test them all.
No.
You're subjected to 80,000 different chemicals a day. Where are we going to start? And all the different combinations or permutations of those chemicals.
And chemicals can get through, they can ingest, obviously, but they can go through the pores in the skin.
Yeah.
So dogs are exposed to all the chemicals that we're exposed to in the environment.
Yes, exactly.
Just in exactly the same way.
And these chemicals are found in plasma, placenta, hair samples, brain cells. These are infusing. Now, again, we will talk about skin in a minute. We're getting started around. But we talked about the microbiome in the gut briefly. And we say, well, you know, that's so important because your microbiome in your gut is breaking the food down and feeding it to your body. It's kind of important. You can't live without it. Also, a lot of your immune system is happening there. Some of your vitamins are being made there. People are beginning to understand just how important that is. So when your dog is lying on a floor that's been cleaned with something that has written on the bottle, kills all known germs, what it means is it's killed all the bacteria. Now, we can talk about what happens to the microbiome of the floor afterwards as well, but let's just look at the chemicals. So, someone will say pet safe. I'll keep that one in. Someone will say pet safe, but when you read the fine print, it'll say, yeah, just keep your dog out for half an hour. And I've had people say, oh yeah, it's okay, I use this, but I keep the dog out. Okay, so your dog is the only dog in the world that doesn't sweat through his paws. Is that right? While he walks across that floor and re-wets and absorbs it through the paws.
Yeah.
Somebody messaged me one time and said it takes 26 seconds for the chemical to go through the skin. I've never tested it, but
Right.
But also, so now they're absorbing it into their body and into their bloodstream. Then they're licking, so then they're ingesting it straight into that microbiome we were talking about. So now you've got something which is designed to kill bacteria going into their body, which is totally reliant upon bacteria.
Wow.
So the other thing, when they say it's now safe, it wasn't safe before, well, what about the fumes? Okay, people might be familiar with what we call VOCs, just volatile organic compounds. It's just a phrase that means chemicals in the air that you breathe in. Doesn't necessarily mean they're explosive. So these are coming off the everything. Now, some things you just can't get rid of. You know, the fire retardancy chemical in your sofa, it's kind of difficult to get rid of that.
Yeah. It's the obvious things that we as humans can smell when we're walking into a room, isn't it?
Oh God! People say, "Oh, well, I love this." Well, yeah, I love the smell of cooking onions. Okay, but people say, "I love the smell of this cleaning product." Oh, why? Why? Because clean has no smell. There is no smell for clean. There's just what you've been told and what you connect in your brain. But these are quite often some kind of chemical, right? So an indication that there's an issue. And we get involved sometimes in air quality. And I remember going to see somebody and I walked in and the first thing I could smell was the air freshener they use in the toilet. And I said, you shouldn't have air coming from your toilet into your... But the air...
Wow.
So this air freshener, full of formaldehydes and all kinds of nasty stuff that your dog's going to breathe in.
Yeah.
So then it becomes about ventilation and so on. And then it becomes about, well, if you live in the country, what are they spraying in the fields?
Yeah.
If you're by the road, what kind of road pollution you get? And the study that showed that dogs will pick up more road pollution on a walk than the human walking beside them at the other end of the lead because they're closer down to the source of the pollution.
Well, we had to, years ago, I used to love plug-in air fresheners. And then I started to learn about the environment and toxins and what animals are exposed to. And certainly here, we used to use cleaning products and then we've changed over to a non-chemical cleaning product to clean all the floors.
Yeah.
And also a laundry detergent, natural laundry detergent to clean all the dog beds because I became more aware of it. And certainly here, particularly throughout the summer, we have to monitor when they're spraying the fruit on the farm. And even though there are plastic tunnels everywhere, it still comes out. You can smell it from a distance. Wow. So I'll say to the guys, please don't walk the dogs when they're spraying in that area because you can smell it from a hell of a distance. And if we're smelling it, the dogs are going to be ingesting it and it's going to be going on their skin and everything.
And walking through the grass where this stuff has landed on and so on. And again,
they can't get away from it. They can't choose to walk out the room if the door's shut or to go out the house. Yeah. So we're overexposing them to it.
And this is where the responsibility comes from because you're right, the dog doesn't choose where he's going. Yeah. I know some dogs do.
Yeah.
generally speaking, they don't. And here you can just see the toxins building up inside the dog. Now, the dogs are a bit better at metabolizing those and getting rid of them than, say, cats are. Yeah. But they're still building, and then you have a problem. And sometimes people will say, oh, I've got this problem. I haven't changed anything. And I've got, well, no, that's the problem. It's not that you change your cleaning product and now you've got a problem. It's layer upon layer of chemical build-up. And it's coming out in all kinds of ways. Behaviour, skin issues, disturbance of the microbiome, all kinds of things. So if you think of the dogs as canary in a coal mine, and there was an article in National Geographic saying just this recently. So they were saying the dog is in the home, the dog's like an early warning system. If your dog's not well, it's not good for you guys.
Yes.
You know? And sometimes it can get quite chronic, and it's not normally this chronic, but I did have one person ring up about the air quality in their house, and I had to say to them, put the phone down and go and get your child and leave the house. Leave the house now. The child was in a wheelchair due to mold toxicity from the house. So before you do anything else, just get the child out there.
Just get out.
And so it may not be that bad, but it's still bad. So here we go. I know we're getting onto the skin now. So here's all these things affecting the microbiome of the skin, and we don't know how, and it's probably different for every single dog. And depending on the dog's general health, what medication it's been on, what its history is, what its lifestyle is like, does it go outside, does it inside, all these kind of things, interacting with other dogs, all these kind of things are affecting it. So what we do with probiotics, getting back onto the point, is, again, think of it like microbiome in a bottle. So we're putting a good microbiome onto the skin. And we were having a chat with Jade earlier about dermatitis and eczema and so on. And these are indications that you got a skin issue, but also a possible microbiome issue. So if you've got dermatitis in a dog, and God, how relevant this is, and just how so many dogs with skin issues, it beggars belief. It really is a strange phenomenon. So under here and so on, and we're spraying the probiotics directly on to the skin, but we're also spraying them onto the dog bedding and anywhere the dog spends time.
Right. Yeah.
So on the skin, what we're doing is we're just out competing the bad bacteria. So we're eating those dried, dead skin cells. We're eating that bits of dust mite, poop, or whatever it is. It's on there. And we're keeping the bad bacteria away, because with the dermatitis, you got the skin barrier isn't quite working.
Yes,
Something's getting in. It's getting in. So it's broken down, and you got bad bacteria getting in. So if we replace those bad bacteria with good bacteria that don't cause a problem, even if the skin is not doing its job, that's all. That's how we're fixing it, and letting the body fix itself. And the body's phenomenal, and you see it sometimes with like wet dermatitis or hot spots.
Yes.
And they're wet. You know, but the body's producing a sebum, trying to fix itself, and that can attract more bad bacteria, and all of a sudden you get this escalating. But if we can put the good bacteria on there that don't cause a problem, then the body can produce that sebum, help repair itself, and you can get a quicker response. And the same process goes for if the dog gets a cut or a graze. So if it's really, really raw in a fold, like a Frenchie's fold or something like that, or they've got a cut or a hot spot, then we would go with the Dermocare, because it's for want of a better word, it's a stronger version of the allergen-free. So the Dermocare, it's a smaller bottle.
Yes.
So again, and then keep it in your emergency pack for later.
I've been using that actually on one of the Frenchies that we've got, and exactly that. She's got folds under her eyes, and I just part them, and they're all red and really damp. Yeah. And so every evening I'm just spraying it. Every morning I'm spraying it.
Do you know what's good as well? Sometimes people will just put a little bit of kitchen towel and just dab it.
Yeah.
Just to, because
take the moisture out.
Take the moisture out, and the moisture isn't bad in and of itself. But what we do is it gets the probiotics underneath the moisture.
It's like a steam room or a sauna. It's just creating that beautiful environment
and
for the.
If we get rid of get that out of the way, and we get the probiotics directly onto the skin.
Okay.
So the moisture is kind of a protective layer. So it's just helping. So dab it, spray it. And again, start with, if you have a fold issue and you're starting for the first time, twice a day,
right,
and then throttle back as you see improvements. So it's about creating that healthier microbiome on the skin, and of course, being what it is, if the dog licks it, it's fine. Don't worry about a cone or anything. It's okay. It's going to help us. Yeah, it's going to help his dental health. It's fine. So
and that would work for dogs with really yeasty paws, because that's another common issue.
If it's really yeasty paws, then I'd say we would be the second product you go for, not the first product.
Okay.
So you find some way of getting rid of that yeast.
Yes.
So something, but again, the probiotics straight in, because the yeast is just an indication of that disturbed microbiome. But in between the toes, in the ears, that's the most common place for the yeast to go. You can talk about tail pockets for Frenchies and so on, but you can keeping those clean. So microbiome, just look after it. Don't destroy it. If your shampoo says antibacterial, then you're destroying the dog's microbiome.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Super. So obviously we're doing all this lovely stuff on the dog's body.
Yeah.
And we talk quite a lot about the environment. That's really important. So, just touching on the environment again, it's really important to consider where your dog is living, what kind of toxins they're exposed to in the house, out the house. I mean, I focus a lot with Jade on what dogs are eating. So we try and prevent dogs from ingesting toxins through their nutrition. So we get them onto a raw food diet. And we also talk a lot about not over-vaccinating, not exposing them to these pesticide drugs that are in flea tick treatment, because all of this is toxins going into their body. But it's those toxins that we can't see or we're just not really consciously focusing on that is everyday stuff. And how can some of this?
Yeah, and you know that's such a wide
allergen
topic, and people will make changes for their pets, and you know the responsible pet owner is, I just love them because they don't realise it, but they're actually pioneering a little bit at the moment, because when we talk to, say, a cleaning company and we say, look, the study showed that cleaning operators are 58% more likely to get lung cancer. When we talk about antimicrobial resistance and stronger bugs caused by cleaning products, they don't listen. But the pet owner listens. So they're moving forward. And when we talk about those toxins that are being ingested, if we get a call from someone, we will say, we can only assume you've got the diet sorted out. You're talking to somebody like you, like Jade, who can give them the advice, make sure they're eating right, and reducing the toxin overload. Because
it's like a four-pronged attack.
Yes.
We're using these products, but we're also sorting their diet out. We're also advising them not to overexpose them to flea tick vaccinations.
Absolutely. It's what we call One Health approach.
Yes.
So all these different things coming, you're absolutely spot on. And other things like anxiety and behaviour of other dogs, all of that feed into it. But we talk to people again about cleaning products, and sometimes you can see them thinking, is that really true?
Yeah.
And then you say, well, look, it's shown that the link between cleaning products and child obesity.
Wow.
Why is that? Well, it's because of the disruption to the gut microbiome from the toxins in the
cleaning
and
products.
antibacterial stuff in the cleaning products, right? So if that's for a toddler that's crawling around, it's not that different than a pup.
Yeah.
You know, that's crawling around and so on. So the toddler and dog from that point of view. So if it's affecting the child, and if people like the Royal, I think the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health will talk about the right of the child to breathe clean air, and amongst the things I point to would be cleaning products.
Yes.
So if they're focusing again on it from that point, it's going to be the same. Yeah. It's going to be the same for the dog. And as an adult male, on average, we consume about 4 kilograms a day. That includes glasses of water and cups of tea and so on. And 4 kilograms a day would be, if you put it in front of you, would be the equivalent of like 8 pints of water.
Okay.
Or Guinness, depending, right? So, so that's it. But I breathe 12 to 15 kilograms, which is 24 to 30 pints of Guinness. And I don't do that. So I breathe a hell of a lot more than I eat. And does air have a weight? Yeah. How much air does it take to make a kilogram? A lot.
So really it's kind of should be top of our list of toxins that we should be considering, the ones in the environment, because we're breathing in more than we're ingesting.
You're breathing in and ingesting, so you're breathing in, let's say, 12 to 15 kilograms of air a day through those lovely filters we have in our lungs. Yes. And you can measure the particulate size, and we talk about 2.5 micron. That's micron. That's when you're looking at air quality, that's what they're measuring at 2.5. So 2.5 gets into your lungs and does damage. When you get down to smaller ones, they're actually passing through the lining into the bloodstream, just like the oxygen. And now you got the chemicals. So when we talk about things like the chemicals in Teflon, and they say, look, we find that in polar bears, and we find it up in the Himalayas, and in 99% of Americans. And you also find the spot-on pesticides in the hair
rivers.
In the rivers, because people are washing their hands.
Yeah, there was a study done where they tested the water in a river in the UK. Yeah. And I can't remember the percentage, but they found a high percentage of pesticides in there from flea tick products where dogs have gone in the water. That's right.
I think that stuff is banned in farming.
Yes.
But now they're using as much of it in pets as they used in farming. Yeah. So it's great. And so there's lots of studies. So it's only a question of linking these together. So if you have
Sure.
all these toxins around, which can be affecting various your metabolism, and that organophosphate that Anna Webb had the experience of her cat dying from, that's what was happening. It was affecting the metabolism. So the organs looked okay, but it gave symptoms of diabetes.
Right.
When actually it wasn't diabetes. It was poisoning, and the cat was dying from chemicals it had ingested in that case.
Wow.
But what we're breathing in is just absolutely massive. And we can talk about cancers, and we can talk about nasty things and asthmas and so on, and the rate of asthmas and the rate of allergies for toddlers. And look what's happening with dogs, and there's a bit of a correlation there. So we then say, well, what can we do to help? What can we do here? Well, look, I mentioned earlier, there's some chemicals that are just difficult to get out of our lives, but some that aren't that difficult to get out of our lives. One of the big ones is cleaning products, so that's where we come involved. So we use a probiotic cleaning approach, very similar to our dog shampoo, very similar to what we're putting in the ear and in the teeth and on the skin, and it goes on the floor, and it's going to stay there for about 3 days, even after the floor is dry, and it's eating the organic waste. Now, the smells, more often than not, are coming from organic waste, the bacteria that feed on the organic waste. So if we get rid of those bacteria, we help reduce the odour. Why is that important? Because then we can stop people using those air fresheners.
Yes, yeah.
And all the chemicals that go with that. You know?
And we are driven to buy those cleaning products that smell lovely, make our house smell lovely. So instead of doing something that we want for our own purpose, actually just think a little bit outside the box and just have a longer think about what you're using in the house to clean the house.
And it's really interesting the way you phrase that, because we are told.
Yeah.
And who tells us? Who's telling us that we need to use this product to make our carpet smell better? And look behind where that money trail leads. And let's go back in time to just before the Second World War and tell our grandparents and great-grandparents that in a little while, watch this, we're going to start using chemicals in the house in the name of hygiene. It's going to be great. And they're going to look at you like you're mad and go...
Whereas they used to just put a bit of vinegar and a bit of water and just clean the floor with it.
Just something like that, a bit of soap and water. And I think it was during the Second World War, the soap became a bit more difficult to get hold of. And these chemicals come in, and they made a lot of money on fear.
Yes.
And I was watching a thread in a clean, I can't say where, but it was a cleaning organisation type Facebook thing, and they were talking about how fear helps sell.
Yeah.
They were talking about COVID.
Yeah.
Now, one of the people was mentioning the fact that not many people know that you don't get COVID off a surface. The Lancet said in September 2020, you don't get COVID off a surface. Whilst people are still selling fogging with chemicals and so on, and disinfectant, not necessary. You're getting COVID from what you breathe in. But in this thread, people were talking about how people buy on fear.
Yeah.
And when we look at, what lurks under the rim, these kind of advertisements are kills all known germs, dead. That you're almost irresponsible as a parent or as a pet parent if you don't kill all the germs.
Yeah.
You're not doing it right.
Yeah.
And again, some of the things, to take it out to the wider thing then, the wider environment, and you look at some of these products and they'll say, do not release into the environment. And you're looking at the back of a bottle of toilet cleaner, and the environment starts right there in the toilet.
Yeah.
And it says, do not release. So can I use it? Can I not use it? Well, the answer is no, you can't. And it says, and they're Teflon, no pun intended, because nothing sticks there. We said, we can't release it to the environment, but you release it. Well, it's a cleaner product, and how else do I use it? So what's that doing to your dog? If it says harmful to aquatic life with long-lasting effect, but you think it's okay for your dog, that's because somebody's told you it's okay for your dog.
Yeah.
Not because you've had time to analyse it and think about it. But that's the power of advertising, and it can be for good and bad.
Super. Okay, so really what we're trying to do is just give people the choice, give all of you the choice, and just actually consider what you're using to help alleviate some of these symptoms in your dogs, and just know that there are choices out there. And for me, the theory behind how the products work just makes complete sense. I do really think of it as that little Pac-Man just eating up all the bad bacteria and allowing the good bacteria to thrive. And for me, I'm always working with dogs, trying to strengthen a dog's health, trying to strengthen their immune system, so that actually dogs can look after themselves. Because it's not natural to keep having to put things on them or give them things to help their body and help their immune system survive. It's just not natural.
And I take that a step further, because there was these things come to mind when you're having these conversations. But there was a study in 2018 here in the UK in Hartpury College. Ashleen Carroll, I think the lady's name was, and she was looking at the dog bowl. She said the dog bowl is the third dirtiest item in the house.
Yep.
And she looked at plastic, stainless steel, and porcelain.
Right.
Ceramic, sorry.
Yeah.
And surprise, surprise, the ceramic was the worst one. Now, it didn't have as much bacteria as some of the other ones, but it had worse bacteria.
Wow.
That's where the MRSA was.
Wow.
And I'm, of course, with my goggles on, I'm looking at this and going, you're asking the wrong question. The question is, where did MRSA come from on my dog bowl? What's going on? If it was one dog, you could say, well, maybe the dog's got it because the dog's had lots of antibiotics over his life and it's great. No, this was a study of a number of households. So there's two things that and this is the other thing we talk about pet health. There's two things that cause what we call antimicrobial resistance. In other words, creating bugs that then become resistant to treatment.
Yeah.
So your MRSA and so on. There's two things that cause it. One is the incorrect use or overuse of antibiotics. That's why I said make sure you finish the course.
Yes.
Because if it's going to kill something, you want to kill it off. You don't want some of the
to keep repeating.
Yeah. Because otherwise, it's like an inoculation. It's like a vaccine for those bad bugs. You're giving them a vaccine, so now they won't be affected by that chemical, that antibiotic the next time, and they are the ones that then grow.
Yeah.
So you create these resistant bacteria inside the body. But the other thing that does it, and it goes way back to farming in the Victoria times, way before the invention of antibiotics, was actually chemicals used for hygiene. For the same reason. So if you're cleaning that dog bowl, have a look at what you're cleaning it with. How are you creating a strong or bad bacteria? And the chances are you're using an antibacterial. Sorry, I couldn't help myself do that.
Yeah.
It will be antibacterial. There's no need for air quotes. You're using an antibacterial product.
Yeah.
It's going to wipe out the microbiome of that bowl, but some of the bad bacteria don't get killed off. All their competition has been killed off. So now you got some of the bad bacteria. The ones that don't get killed off are slightly stronger, and they can become then wise to the chemicals in the cleaning product, and they can share this information with their buddies. So it's like a little memory stick. You know, I've got a game, and you share all your buddies in the class, and now you've all got resistance.
Wow.
So here's the MRSA in the dog bowl. You can talk about the chemicals in the plastic. You can talk about micro bits of metal as well.
Yes.
There's all kinds of things. So you would think the ceramic is a really good way to go.
Yeah, well, that's what I've got for the dogs to drink out of.
But don't worry, we have a probiotic dish cleaner, so it's
Perfect.
fine. Problem solved.
Perfect. Because I don't, for the water bowl, I just literally use a brush and just clean it out with cold water. I don't actually use any.
I think that's better than
cleaning products. Yeah. Super. Amazing.
We'll get you some of our probiotic dish soap then, just for you, Joe.
I really would like some of the cleaning products, absolutely, because that's the other thing. When you want to go natural, when you don't want to have chemicals to clean your household with, there's still not a lot of choice out there. And even if you choose to go that route, some of the products are really expensive.
Yeah.
And it puts people off.
Yeah.
And then they just carry on doing what they do.
Yeah.
Which then you end up spending more money because your dog is getting all these ailments and health problems, and then actually you're spending money that way, as opposed to if you just spent a little bit more using natural cleaning products. I think you could have saved money anyway.
You could have saved money. And you could say the same about raw feeding and quality raw feeding.
Exactly.
You're going to save money in the long run. And there was an Australian survey done on the guide dogs where they found they reduced their vet bills considerably.
Yes.
So, getting away from the chemicals. What is the cost of the chemicals? It's not a pound when you buy it down in the cheap shop. That's not the cost. The cost is the fact that what you're doing to yourself, what you're doing to your beloved pet, what you're doing to the local environment, and the build-up of chemicals in the environment. You talk about it in the rivers, and it's not just it's not just the cleaning products. It's not just the antibiotics that we add. It's not just the colloidal silver is another one that ends up in there.
It's everything.
It's all those kind of things.
Yeah.
It's actually affecting the rate that the oceans evaporate. So now people are talking about climate change, and a lot of people are getting tired talking about climate change.
Yeah.
And they're talking about carbon reduction, carbon. Absolutely, we got to reduce carbon, obviously. But 75% of greenhouse gas is water vapor. So if you got the oceans evaporating more quickly because the chemicals are killing off the little micro things and bio things that kind of bond the molecules of water together, so it's easier to physically easier to evaporate, then we do have a bit of a concern. So, as someone who comes from a background of carbon reduction in my whole life, if you like, I'm a lot less worried about carbon reduction than I am about poisoning.
Yes.
So we're just kind of living in a bit of a chemical toilet.
Yeah.
Dog cancer's on the rise, human cancer, all these kind of stuff, and we're getting better at treating it, but something isn't right. So let's get rid of the chemicals that are easy to get rid of.
Yeah.
We're not trying to tell people to change their life.
Yeah.
You know, if you like a pint of beer and it's got a few chemicals in it, then okay, you know, it's fine.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
But let's get rid of the other ones. And cleaner products is one that's really easy to get rid of. Burning candles to make a nice scent in the house? No. That's against particulate matter that's coming off the candle as well as the chemicals in the candle. Air fresheners, they're not freshening up the air, they're just putting a chemical that masks the smell.
Yes.
The probiotics will stop the smell happening in the first place.
Brilliant.
And be much healthier for you.
I need that in my dog room.
Yeah.
Because I've got 9 kennels.
We'll
in
help with
my
that.
dog room.
We'll have
so
it.
in the morning you open the door and you're like, whoa!
Yeah. So if we can have
With the dog smell.
If we can have that dog smell, what we're also helping then is that the microbiome on the floor where the dogs are touching is going to be better.
Yes.
One of the indications of that is it's going to smell less. Not going to smell bad. We're not going to make it smell nice. We're going to make it not smell.
Yeah.
So that's just an indication that other bad bacteria, other things are also being gotten rid of.
Amazing. Oh my goodness, we could talk all day about...
Let's get the kettle on.
Yeah, about dog health. It's not a bad idea. Jade's bought pastries, I heard. She's noticed she's kept them in her bag.
She knows me well.
We didn't get them before we started, did we?
We're not allowed to have the pastries until we do the job.
Everybody knows that, the way to my heart is pastries or cake.
Yeah.
Really, with you it's Guinness.
Guinness and pastries. Hey, look,
There you go.
they're
Happy
completely-
days. We need to go down the shop and get some Guinness.
But with dog
Amazing.
health, look, we talked about the actual health of the dog and how that affects, and also the chemical overload and how that affects.
Yeah.
Because people know that their own microbiome affects their mood, affects even
Absolutely.
depression is linked with microbiome.
Absolutely.
So let's
Yeah.
not mess it up.
Yeah. That's been so useful, and just I love talking about this, and I think what's great is that people are now starting to link health and behaviour and see that the correlation between the two has a massive effect. If a dog isn't, like us, we've just talked about, if a dog isn't feeling well or they're feeling in pain or they're slightly uncomfortable, it's going to affect how they behave. Yeah. And that's certainly what I focus on when I'm running my workshops. I get people to really think, what's changed in your dog's life to cause this behaviour? There's lots of factors. It's never just one factor. And there's always lots of causes. So it's been really, really enlightening. I thank you for coming down and seeing us. Yeah. And we've been with Joe Flanagan from Ingenious Probiotics, and you can get some of the products that we've talked about in our Dog Trouble store. You can order them online, or you can come down if you live locally to Berkshire, to Wokingham, and you can come and buy them from us.
What's your website called?
It's www.dogtrouble.co.uk. Yes. Superb. Thanks so much.
Oh, it's been great.
Superb. Have a lovely day, everyone. And you've been with Jo Cottrell at Dog Trouble and Joe Flanagan from Ingenious Probiotics. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.